So today is really all about digital literacy and citizenship for our students. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm not sure if you guys have this link or not, so I'm going to throw it in the chat, but you are welcome to kind of follow along with links and examples on the site that I use to keep kind of everything organized. And so today we're just going to talk a little bit about what digital literacy and citizenship is and how that fits in with our standards here in Texas, and then how we can use some tools to create lessons that meet those needs in the classroom. And so when we think about digital literacy and citizenship, I used AI to help me generate this little graphic. I don't know if you've played with Napkin AI at all, but it's one that will help create infographics. And so the concept here is that digital literacy is really the knowledge and understanding of a lot of different things. It's understanding what information literacy is and how to research and how to think through sources and credibility and those kinds of things. It's also media literacy, what we take in so much on a regular basis. And we have to be able to understand and know what it is we're seeing and whether to believe it. It's also the content creation. And of course, goodness, with social media the way it is, our students are content creators themselves. And so we have to kind of keep that in mind when we're thinking about literacy. It's also the technology literacy. Can they use technology effectively and safely? And then communication literacy fits in there as well. And so that's the literacy part of it. But if you think of kind of around the edge, that really is kind of like the citizenship piece. Can we use those things ethically and responsibly? Can we use them in a safe manner? And that's thinking about cybersecurity and data privacy. It's also about balance and well-being. And I think that's an area that we don't talk about enough, is that we do as adults, but maybe not with our kids, that we have to have a balance with what we use digitally and what we don't. Netiquette is kind of the coined term for, but can we respectfully use digital tools? And that collaboration piece plays a role as well. I did one of these lunch and learns back in, I can't remember, I think it was November, that we talked about the Tech Apps standards. And this has been a shift in the state standards for tech apps. Because now instead of grade band kind of strategies or grade band concepts and skills, each grade has its own. But the big ideas here, you can see that data literacy and that digital citizenship are some of the big strands that we've shifted to. And so that's what kind of where this is coming from today. And so go back just a sec. If you think about some kind of common misconceptions and some of our myths that we have surrounding technology and the literacy and the ethical use of it, that citizenship around it. Our kids these days, the kids that are coming into our classrooms now, are digital natives. They don't know a time before being connected. They don't know a time before Wi-Fi. They don't know a time before, cell phones. They're getting cell phones younger and younger. But the myth is that they are digitally literate just because they've had digital access. And so, yeah, they're comfortable using the devices, but they may not have the specific skills, especially that critical thinking, that evaluating sources, reliability, to understand how to use that digital technology. We also tend to think that, they're on it all the time, so they're going to be current with it. But technology changes faster than we can, and we can actually learn that. And so it's a continuous adaptation to what's out there. When we're thinking about our students in technology, that cyberbullying and an online harassment piece is a huge one. And some people think, we just ignore it or just deal with it. But that is a complex problem. That is not something that's an easy solution. And so our students need to be aware of it, but they also need to be aware of how to handle it. And then that last myth is equitable access to technology means everyone has the same level of digital literacy. In other words, just because everybody can access it doesn't mean everyone understands it to the same degree. So we all have to kind of take that into consideration as well. So I kind of want to show you my process on how I was thinking about if I was teaching in the classroom, how would I bring in these elements into my lessons on a regular basis? So the very first thing I did was I actually hopped over into Gemini, which is one of the AI platforms that's built into Google. And I asked it, just can you provide me with strategies and lesson plan ideas for each of the categories? And I broke it down based on those categories that we talked about during the Tech App session in November: internet safety, digital privacy, digital ethics, media literacy, balance and well-being, cybersecurity, collaboration, and online communication. Sounds like a whole lot, but it's just all those different pieces of literacy and citizenship. And so it did. It gave me a whole lot of ideas, breaking it down with like a strategy and a lesson idea. And then I took and turned that into just a chart. And as I got to looking at it, I, there's a couple of issues that I had with it. First, it is by grade band, and our Tech App standards are now by grade level up through, I believe, eighth grade. I know K-5, and I know 9 through 12th is lumped. I can't remember about junior high if it's lumped, but we've gone to more of a specific grade thing. So I thought, this might not be the best tool, but it is something you could use. So if you wanted to talk about, say, this digital footprints idea, or I don't know, click with caution, you could probably plug this into another AI tool or the same one, Gemini, and say, "Okay, I want to develop this lesson," and see what it would come up with. I love using AI to help me kind of plan these things through. And so it's pulling from the chart I had. Oh, it's going to be slow today. There it goes. Here's a detailed lesson plan. And so it does. It gives me a lesson plan on online dangers, phishing and malware and inappropriate content. And then it gives me the standards as well as what plan I could do. Now, again, that's totally doable, but that would be a whole lot of, having to go through and make each of these. And that wasn't quite what I intended for it to give me. So I went in and decided I needed more of a grade specific lesson. I wanted to utilize the specific standards for one grade level. So I pretended I was a third grade teacher and I pulled up the third grade Tech Apps standards and I just had in a PDF document. Now, this is all of the Tech App standards. So digital citizenship and literacy are only part of those. So I asked it in Gemini. Again, Gemini, I like Gemini because it lets you upload some things. So let me see if I can find my third grade lesson here, right here. I gave it the third grade standards for Tech Apps. And I said, you're a grade 3 teacher and want to incorporate elements of the Tech Apps standards into your classroom, focusing on digital citizenship and literacy, which are numbers 5 through 10 on the standards. And so then I said, write some simple lesson plans to incorporate those skills. And it did just that. Now, what I really like about Gemini is when you get to the bottom of it and you want to kind of share it or utilize it, you can export it straight to Doc. So you get a nice, neat Google Doc. And you could even break this down. Like right now, it's all the lessons in one, but you could easily, copy and paste them and add them to the tabs here, or you could actually tab them instead of just this is an outline. But you could actually tab them, but at least this way you do have the ability to go through them here. But notice it gave me just 5 lesson plans that are aligned to the third grade standards. It would be really easy or a lot easier for me as a third grade teacher to incorporate 5 lessons that encompass those Tech App standards than to constantly be thinking about how I can add them into whatever it is I'm doing. That doesn't mean we don't want to do that. We definitely want to incorporate technology and literacy and citizenship into our lesson plans throughout. But you'll just see these are pretty easy ways to do this. The lessons are not super long. I think they're about 40 minutes long. And it's things that you would do with your class, brainstorming, providing examples, have them create a little digital footprint pledge. That's something a third grader could easily do. You could do it whole class or you could do it independently. So you would have that ability to modify and adjust. But I love that it gives you that TEKS alignment here so that you know what standards you're meeting in your classes. And so if you could incorporate these 5 lessons, you would incorporate most of those standards that had to do with literacy and citizenship. All right, going back over to this page here. So here is the prompt. I even included the prompt in case you wanted to try this with a different grade level. You can just use any of the Tech App standards documents. I'll show you again where you can find those. I have them on our site on that November 4th date, but of course you can find them on the state's web page as well. A simple Google is just as easy to find it. But here's what I asked it, and that was the results that I got from it. And that was using Gemini. Now, when we think about, sometimes we need some extra support and some extra tools to help us out. Here are a couple of examples that I wanted to share with you. ISTE actually has a digital citizenship like section with lesson plans. And they're called DigiCit, or I don't even know if that's the way, but anyway, there's the digital citizenship lessons that you can get. They break those down into a little bit different categories than our Texas standards do, but it's still the same concept. So they're going to work for you about being balanced, informed, inclusive, engaged, and alert. But you can use this. Let's see. Here's the, oh, I thought I had it set to where you could look at the actual lesson plans, but it's not going to be happy with me. Anyway, it's there though. You got it. You can use them. The other one I can use is, maybe I was thinking of common sense. Common sense literacy is common sense education has a ton of resources for you, both as a teacher, but also if you are a parent. It's a great tool as well, because it can tell you a little bit about the movies and the shows that your kids are watching. But the digital citizenship piece is the part that I liked. It does work off of the grade band situation, where you do have a grade band. So it would be something you would need to coordinate with in your schools, maybe during PLC meetings on who's using what lessons. Although these are skills that, if a student is repeating a lesson from year to year, it's probably okay. They need to be reinforced frequently. But you can easily check out some of these lessons. These are the standards or the strands that they use, which really are very similar to what the tech apps talk about, that balance, privacy and security, footprint, relationships and communication, the cyberbullying part, and news and media literacy. And then you can see the lessons that are offered by grade. And it's everything you need. Password power up. It tells you how long it would take, 45 minutes. It gives you some definitions for the words so that you have that vocabulary already built in. You do have to sign in if you want to see it, but it's free. So you can do that pretty easily. But again, it tells you everything you need for that time. And I'm not sure if I have that set up or not. So, but again, all these little strands. So if you could just incorporate just those into your classroom, you'd be hitting most of those standards for the tech apps piece and teaching responsible use of technology. OpenAI Academy is actually a fairly new resource that just came across my inbox not too long ago. We know in our world now, AI is like the be all end all, right? And we know our kids have access to it. We know we have access to it. But the OpenAI Academy is geared towards teaching us to use it ethically and responsibly. It's right now, it is a lot of either live streams or webinars that you can go in and look at, like an introduction to ChatGPT or AI for K-12 educators. This one was just last month's webinar that they just posted at the beginning of this month. How to prompt things, the AI educator brain on prompting. So just a lot of resources to learn the use of AI and the effectiveness of it, but also, what to do with it. I thought that was really interesting because I think we got caught in a situation where the AI was developing faster than we could keep up with what it was doing. And so we had access to it long before we had access to the ins and outs of it. So a lot of just guessing and checking and seeing what happened, which is totally fine with technology. I'm all about just push the button, see what happens. But now that we're starting to get some learning base and knowledge bases built around using AI. And then the last one that I wanted to share is actually from TCEA. They actually did a lunch and learn on it. I believe it was last week, maybe, about integrating the Tech Apps standards. Actually, I take that back. This might be the old one. But anyway, they've done it a couple of times. But the thing that I wanted to show you is way down here at the bottom. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I have linked the wrong ones. Hold on. No, it's right here. I just skipped past it. It's this Tech Apps Peaks Wizard. They've created a custom GPT in ChatGPT and OpenAI that allows you as a teacher to interact with it in a way where it already knows those standards. And you can ask it to help you align your lesson plans with those tech app standards. You can tailor it to your specific content area, and it helps you think about those tech app standards in terms of that content. It is fairly easy to use. I included that site so that you could see how to get to it. But once you get to it, this is kind of how you interact with it. I started off pretty vague and generic just to see what it would ask me and what it would want from me. I just said, I want some ideas for, Tech Apps TEKS. And so then it's saying, what's your time constraint? What's your components? What do you want? What do you want your students to kind of interact with? And so I just pulled one of the standards from that third grade document, and I asked it to, define digital footprint. That was one of the activities that was given to me on that Gemini piece. And so, it asked me a few more things. And I, again, purposely was just giving it a little bit of information just to see how robust it was. And it still managed to give me a decent stuff. It gave me 10 short activities for that idea of digital footprint with a language arts station concept or kind of plan. And so it gave me 10 ideas. Now, they're pretty simple. Write a short story about a character who leaves a digital footprint. I think that's a great example of using language arts and the tech apps to teach that digital literacy and citizenship piece. But, it might not be quite so robust. So you might have to copy paste and ask, okay, can you expand this out? Can you give me the student instructions for this so that you get a full a full station built for them? But they, broke it down into lots of different places: writing, vocabulary, poetry, reading comprehension, sorting and categorization, writing, reading, discussion, speaking and listening, and creative writing and drawing. So multimodal, which we know is the best way to teach our students to do anything. The more modes we can give it to them in, the better their brains are at remembering those things. So I love that there's lots of options here. This would also be a great way to conduct or to get the entries for something like a choice board. Maybe you wanted to allow your students to think through or have options, that voice and choice kind of idea for the same concept. So these are all about digital footprints, but they could choose which of these to do instead of a station situation. So I love that TCA has come up with this Tech Apps Wizard. If you're looking for it again, it was on here. Let's see if I can add that to the chat as well. It should let you do it as long as you have a free account in ChatGPT. I did run across one of their chatbots the other day that was operating on the 4.0, and it wouldn't let me, I'd already used all my 4.0 whatever credits, tokens, I don't know what you want to call them. And so it wouldn't let me continue, but this one let me interact with it. So I thought that was pretty helpful. So they showed you a couple of outputs as well. If you look at, there's little different tabs on it. Let's see if it'll let me start a new one here. New chat, there we go. There's some little tabbed options on what you can do with it as well. So one of them is, I want them for a specific grade. I'd like to see integration ideas for another content area. And so you can pick that, and it's going to kind of start you off with a prompt, and then it's going to ask you those questions. So same thing, it's just asking you what content you want to work with, and it will keep doing that. So pretty impressive that it will do that as far as learning those standards. They're so new, but they are required to be taught in those different actually all the grades. Some schools have gone to where they just teach a tech apps class, in which case that teacher is responsible for all of them. But most of our schools, you as the classroom teacher are responsible for teaching these tech app standards. And so that includes that digital literacy and citizenship piece. And to be honest, even if you're in a school that has a specific tech apps teacher, it's still important to know if you're using technology with your students, which in this day and age, most of us are, we have to teach the skills that go along with that effectiveness of using the technologies, the literacy piece, but also that ethical and responsible use of it, that citizenship piece. So those are just some things that kind of have connected here in using like not only using the I got way too many tabs open, by the way. Sorry. Not only using the standards themselves to do this and teaching these skills, but also using tools for us to make our lives a little bit easier. So far, my favorite right now are Gemini. Well, ChatGPT is my go-to. I use it for everything. But Gemini, being able to upload those PDFs in to give those standards to it to interact with is super helpful, which means you could also take the standards that you're teaching in your class, whether it's, a math class, science class, and then those tech apps ones and say, can you blend these? And it will do that for you as well. So it's pretty cool. All right. We're done just a few minutes early. I will see if you have any questions.